relationship ended in a disaster, with my ex-boyfriend leaking my very personal photos on the internet. My ex, let's call him Jacob, was a very nice guy at first. He was so funny and attentive and was always doing romantic things for me, and it was sweet. But then he changed. Well, more like he showed his true colours. He became very rude to me and was always arguing with me about everything. If I wanted to see my friends, he would be very angry and upset. But he would go and see his friends, who I hated, almost every day. I quickly realised that this wasn't okay, but I continued to date him for 3 months. But then I said enough and broke up with him. I was very sad, but it was the right decision, and I thought it was over, but it wasn't. He started to text me about some photos I sent to him. He said he would leak them if I wouldn't get back together with him. I got really scared, and I didn't know what to do. I started to picture in my mind how everyone would see them, and it was terrifying. I didn't want to get back together with him, and I asked him several times not to do it, but he continued to blackmail me the whole time. He was texting me day and night, and also calling me like 50 times a day. Creepy stuff. Finally caved in and went on a date with him. Know what I was thinking? It was probably just my fear, or something. The date was awful. The whole time he was trying to prove to me that it was wrong of me to dump him, and that I was being egotistical. And then he wanted to kiss me, but I said no, and he got so angry, like so angry, he was shouting stuff at me. So I just hopped on a bus and left. Then he texted me and said it was my last chance to reconsider. I said no and asked him again not to leak the photos. I blocked him everywhere afterward, but I was scared because I didn't know whether he posted them or not. I soon found out that he, in fact, did. He sent my photos to his friends, and they were laughing at me while I was walking through the school's corridors and were calling me names. I was ashamed, but mostly I was afraid. They were telling everyone and showing my pictures and coming up with terrible stories about me, and all of them were completely false. I was terrified of how people were treating me, and then I would see Jacob with his friends, grinning, so happy with himself. Of course, he was telling everyone that I deserved it. I cried a lot, but I was still afraid to tell anyone, even my friends. Or were already seeing this stuff. Sometimes I just didn't want to go to school and didn't want to talk to anyone, but I couldn't tell my parents, so I still had to go. I didn't want him to wait until everyone forgot, so I unblocked Jacob and texted him. I told him he should stop what he was doing and delete everything, because I had screenshots of all of our conversations and I would show them to the police if he didn't stop. He basically laughed it off and said I wasn't going to do anything because nobody would believe me, even with the screenshots. Then I knew that I had no choice but to confess to my parents about everything that had happened. I asked my mum and dad to listen, and I couldn't even start without tearing up. My parents got very worried, but I finally told them my story. It was really scary seeing how angry my dad was. He started shouting, wanting to know how I could do something like that, and then he was saying how he was going to punish Jacob. Well, he didn't call him Jacob. He used, another word. I was full on crying at this point, and Dad was pacing back and forth through my room. My mum, on the other hand, was more calm and was telling my dad to calm down and that we had to think of what to do next. After my dad calmed down a little bit, they started to think, and I didn't know what to say really. It was like I really disappointed them. They decided to ask their lawyer friend about their options. I couldn't sleep that night, waiting for them to contact him the next day. Finally, they asked him, and he was really shocked by everything. Basically, he explained to us that if we decided to press charges, it would take a lot of time and energy, and probably money as well. So maybe we should figure out another way to solve this. Well, my parents contacted Jacob's parents, and all of us met. It was so awkward. His parents were shocked to hear about everything, and my dad could barely keep himself away from Jacob. Jacob was sitting there, lost like a little boy, trying to say that he didn't do those things and that I was lying. And then the lawyer showed everyone the screenshots, and there was no way out. I have to admit that I was really happy to see him so scared after everything he had done. So the lawyer said that Jacob had to delete the photos, and everyone who had them in their possession had to delete them too, or else everyone would be in trouble. Otherwise we would have to contact the police, and it was going to be very difficult for Jacob. He really did make sure that Jacob called most of his friends in front of us and told them in a very shameful voice that they should delete them, or they would be in trouble. I was so happy, but let's be honest, I can't really do anything with the photos that exist on the internet. My parents' lawyer friend did everything he could. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else still has them, but at least Jacob got what he deserved. My parents got over it, but his parents took everything he had, like his phone, and they were also taking him to and from school. I was still unhappy about everyone knowing what had happened, so I decided to do something weird. I wrote a post about the situation, owning up to what had happened and saying that it could happen to anyone, that we should be more careful and that we shouldn't try to reason with people like that, but instead seek help immediately. People were very supportive of me and thought it was brave of me to actually react to it in such a direct way. And one day, Jacob came up to me and said he was sorry. But you know what? I said to him he should stay away from me if he doesn't want any problems, because he wasn't really sorry. He was just scared, and I don't need to forgive a person like that. Share this story so people would know not to be scared in situations like this and to act, not wait.